America, the numbers are in, and they are sending shockwaves through the political establishment. Nate Silver's latest model has just dropped, and it's painting a picture that's giving Democrats nightmares. Trump is not just leading, he is surging. We're talking about a potential repeat of 2016, but on steroids, and the mainstream media is in full damage control mode. But we've got the raw data they don't want you to see, so buckle up because these numbers are about to blow your mind. While the political landscape is shifting, smart investors are looking at a different kind of future. Enter World Copper Limited, ticker WCUFF. This American powerhouse is sitting on a veritable mountain of opportunity. 7 million tons of copper, or about 50 million pounds. At current prices, we're talking potential revenue of over $200 million, and that's before full production even kicks in. With green tech driving demand through the roof, copper is the play of the decade. World Copper trades as WCU on TSX Venture and WCUFF on the OTC. Don't let this copper boom pass you by. As always, do your own research and check our description for more details and their presentation. Okay, we got some good news for you. Now remember, that whole honeymoon period we were talking about? Richard Baris appeared on Real America's Voice with Jack Posobiec, and let's listen to what he had to say first.
Now
We've never had an election season like this one. What is going on in the numbers?
Yeah, we haven't, Jack, and that's a big part of what I've been talking about since they pulled the switcheroo, as Rui called it. Yeah, and then we had an assassination attempt, right? Then we had, before that, we had the country witness a full-blown emperor has no clothes moment. Oh, my God, the media's been lying to us. The president is senile. We've been hit. Oh, and then Robert Kennedy leaves the race. And we've been hit with like once-in-a-lifetime stories every 2 weeks in this political season. And that is something that pollsters aren't explaining to people, and that can cause a very difficult polling environment. That being said, I don't want to speak too early, but it does look like things like response biases and social bias, which is really a form of response bias, are starting to iron out. I don't know yet. I don't want to proclaim that yet, but it does look like that response bias that I'm arguing artificially pumped Harris's numbers for a bit there is beginning to not beginning. I mean, it is fading. And
the honeymoon is fading, folks. This is the moment we've been waiting for, but it's also a moment of caution because the October surprise, the rumor, people talk about this, is that Joe Biden would actually resign his position from the White House and then enter Kamala Harris as the first female president, unelected. And of course, Tim Walz would likely be the VP. So now you have Trump running against an incumbent, and the country goes into a secondary honeymoon phase. Complete delirium over the situation. Can you imagine what would happen? That's what people are really concerned about. Okay, Vivek Ramaswamy, he raised that concern. Mr. Reagan has raised that concern. A lot of people have raised that concern because now the honeymoon's over and they need another bump to keep the people going and to get those polls so that the gap can close, so that if they decide to cheat, and we know that they will, that the cheat appears to be legitimate, that the numbers that she actually gets, the votes she actually gets, appear legitimate.
She didn't get a bounce at all from this convention. Just so people understand, in 2016, our tracking poll, Hillary Clinton got a 5-point bounce, but Joe Biden got a similar bounce. In both cases, it took about 4 or 5 days for the numbers to get baked in after the convention. So all of these people that you heard, doing overnight polls, oh, there's a pop. Nonsense. That's not how this stuff works. And it took almost 2 weeks for the entire process to play out for Hillary Clinton. It took 11 days for it to play out for Joe Biden. So now we're kind of just entering that period of where we should expect to see Harris's bump start to fall. Instead, there was no bump at all.
No bump at all. Leading report, Trump now leads Harris by 5 points post-DNC convention. The big picture, who is favored to win the presidency? Look at that, 52% to 47%. These are real numbers, folks. Real solid numbers. Political polls. Nate Silver model update. Trump is back in the lead, 52-47. Who is favored to win the presidency? Wow. There you have it. 47-52. We're going to get to this young lady's remarks in a moment. Now, another point that was brought up was about the Midwest on this clip. Listen.
Today, Kamala. I got to tell you, Jack, past this prologue, which it typically is in this sort of thing, I see all the red flags in the northern Midwest that we saw in 16 and 20. I think if the election was held next Tuesday, Kamala Harris would grossly underperform and Donald Trump would win this election.
Boom. Right there.
And by that I know you're
tight.
your speech. It's
That was tight.
time.
Wait. I didn't need the mute button that time. I didn't need the mute button at all. No, so Rich, this is huge. And this, by the way, what you're saying, though, is the same thing that the super PAC, the Kamala Harris super PAC, was saying privately. They say, hey, our internals are much tighter than the stuff that's going out publicly. Also, right. the things that you guys are putting out with having her up big time, it's creating a problem for us on the ground because we need volunteers to go knock on doors. And suddenly they're like, how do I get this? How do I get people up? But they're saying that we got all this momentum, we've got all this swing. Rich, what should people be looking for in the next couple of days and weeks?
I think it's going to be a very tumultuous couple of, a very, very erratic, I'm talking about the media landscape and the landscape of this election. I think it's going to be crazy. I think we have not seen the end of these big bombshells. These stories. There was another indictment the other day that will move the needle. Are you ready? Exactly 0 points. Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. We ran a story about this. The new indictment, like Groundhog Day all over again. Nobody cares. It has no effect on people because people see through it. They see it as political warfare, lawfare.
So when people get desperate, Jack, they do desperate things. And I think we have not seen the end of this. The reality is starting to set in on the Democratic side. And when that...
Okay. We haven't seen the end of it. They have more tricks up their sleeve. Believe me, the Democrats are very, very smart, and they play the game. They play it well. And sadly, the media just carries the water and amplifies their lies and their strategy and the honeymoon. And if that October surprise happens and Biden steps down, we're in big, big trouble.
Happens, look at their past behavior. They lash out. And I think we're going to see something like that. And by the way, you just mentioned the internals. That translates what that's internals means expensive. So, as opposed to the fake high quality polls that he's talking about right there, campaigns do high quality, meaning expensive, meaning that they set these stratified quotas and they pay for them to make sure no groups are being underrepresented. And this picture has not been rosy for Harris for weeks. That's the truth of it. It's been weeks that this has been the situation, but they're getting to a point now where maybe she had a lead in Minnesota within the margin. Maybe she had they were bobbing back and forth in her polling between like a 1 point lead for her, a 1 point lead for Trump in Michigan. And it's getting to the point now where it's a very clear direction it's moving. And everyone knows what that means. They're afraid they're going to get Hillary Clinton, where all the polls showed a rosy picture for their candidate, and Donald Trump outperformed. And they do not want it to happen. I mean, the words blue mirage are now being spoken every day all through these circles. And they are afraid of that blue mirage. And that's my point. I think they have good reason to be.
They have good reason to be afraid. Be afraid. Be very afraid. The Border Observer posting, Trump leads Kamala 49-46 nationally in the latest Rasmussen poll. When the election comes down to the Electoral College as of August 18th, Trump comes out on top with 287 to 251 votes, according to the polling average. Post Millennial posting that story. Let's see if we can get a little deeper into this. Here it is. GOP nominee Donald Trump leading Vice President Kamala Harris 49 to 46 points. A new national head-to-head poll has come as Harris and Democrats have attempted to leave behind some of Harris's more left-wing positions as she has held to date. According to the poll from Rasmussen, the 3-point lead shows a slight gain for Harris compared to the last set of data, Rasmussen showing Trump leading 49-45. When third-party candidates are added to the mix of candidates, Trump comes out on top again at 47% to Harris 45%. Robert F. Kennedy has 4 points, with others having about 1. Kennedy is reporting to be suspending his campaign. Okay, so this is before the Kennedy endorsement. Nate Silver's latest election projection model will crush liberal joy. This is from Red State. Nate Silver, founder of the website 538 and now a writer on his Silver Bulletin Substack, had bad news for Kamala on Thursday. Trump pulled ahead in the presidential race, according to his analysis. Did you hear the scream? Liberals far and wide are no doubt freaking out right now because the election they thought they had in the bag after the Democrat Party crowned Kamala Harris as its nominee sent a jolt of enthusiasm in their party is now slipping away. Kamala's honeymoon bounce is now on a downward trajectory, and a slew of battleground state polling is really looking good for Donald Trump. Perhaps even more devastating for the Democrats is that Nate Silver's famous election projection model has Trump ahead for the first time in weeks. As you can see, in Silver's model, Trump is now favored to win the electoral vote and is ahead in many crucial swing states. August 14th had Harris at 56 to Trump's 42. August 29th, 52 Trump to Harris 47. Swing state chance of winning. Pennsylvania, Trump. Nevada, Trump. Arizona, Trump. There's even more here. Let's see. Georgia, Trump 63 to 37. Holy cow. North Carolina 65 to 35. Wisconsin, Harris 53 to 47. Michigan 58 to 42. These numbers are astonishing. Just clearly showing that the honeymoon is over. And that's why I'm afraid that they might try an October surprise. I mean, it's anything's possible. As you heard Baris say, they are going to get desperate if they see the numbers tank. This whole election cycle has been absolutely insane. What will they try next? As we all know, polls are just polls and models are just models. Silver has a pretty good track record, however, especially when compared to some of his competitors. Silver was named one of the world's 100 most influential people by Time in 2009 after an election forecasting system he developed successfully predicted the outcome in 49 of the 50 states in 2008. So, this is what we're looking at, friends. Right? At least it's good news right now. It's good news. But the big concern is how the Democrats are going to react to that. Very cautious, and we have to warn our friends, warn our family, warn our neighbors that the next trick up their sleeve could happen any moment. And if that means that Joe Biden drops out of the White House, oh man, that would just be outrageous. Let's see. This lady had some interesting thoughts. Before Brian, let's bring this back up because I was going to bring this lady up, and I wanted because it's related to the lies being pushed by the Kamala campaign on Trump.
I'm sorry, I am so tired of the tens of thousands of just hard fours online being like, I'm voting for her because he's going to strip all of our rights away as a woman. I can do that as a mom and a da. What rights, babe? What rights? He was already president, and how many rights did you lose? 0. He's trying to protect women's rights. What do you think it is when we have men in women's sports? We have men in our in our personal spaces. What do you think it is when dangerous men come over the border? That's what protecting women and children is. Oh, he already said he's not going to do a nationwide abortion ban. He's not going to do it. If anything, it's going to be state by state the way it has been. And guess what? If a state, 90% of people in a state want something, I think that state should have it, even if I don't agree with it. If you don't like it, move to another state. It's very simple. Stop with the propaganda. This is why people make fun of women. Use your brain. Use your brain, babe.
In 2016, you would have labeled me as a never Trumper, and I was. I was very outspoken at the time against Donald Trump.
I'm not going to play that clip. That's about 5 minutes. But so it's women like that who see the light and are sharing their story. That's just a social media post. They're telling other women that what's being said is a lie by the Kamala Harris campaign. Trump's numbers clearly are on the uptick. But just wait. Just wait. That October surprise. You never know. So there you have it, folks. The polls are in, and they're telling a story the mainstream media can't ignore any longer. Trump's lead isn't just holding, it's growing. We're seeing a seismic shift in the battleground states, a surge in independent support, and the Democrat Party in disarray. So as we wrap up tonight's bombshells, ask yourselves, are we witnessing history in the making? One thing is for sure, 2024 is shaping up to be an election like no other. So stay tuned, America. The ride is only beginning.